We want to talk about the power racks in the gym. These are awesome pieces of equipment. We're intended for whether it be military press, front squats, back squats. Those are the primary things. You could even do Romanian deadlifts, which we'll go through here in a minute. One of the big things with the power racks is making sure that we're only doing max effort of 70 to 75% of your total max effort. So, or in other words, 7 out of 10 exertion level. Anything greater than that, that should be done at the gym that you're a member of outside of the workplace. This is really intended to be able to maintain our current level of strength, not to promote greater level of strength. So with that being said, we're going to first go over the back squat. And back squat's amazing, and it's great for all, from core to extremity. It's working your core muscles, it's working your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, and even your calves, just from a stabilization perspective. So we're going to have Sarah come and she's going to demonstrate a squat. One of the big things before we go into it, notice the bar level. When Sarah goes underneath the bar to put it on her back, go ahead. Notice right here, she's not already fully extended from her hips or her knees or ankles. She's not at that triple extension, hips, knees, ankles being triple extension. She's not having to get up on her tiptoes to get it off the rack. So Sarah, go ahead and get it off the rack. Go ahead and walk back with it for a second. There we go. Perfect. So now, you notice that's first thing. So make sure that these safety racks are set in a way that you are able to get underneath it and you are able to stand up without having to get on your tiptoes to clear it, because obviously you could catch the rack, take a fall, or strain something or hurt your back. So with that being said, when she's getting ready to start the squat, she also has the bar not set right at the top of her neck. She has it set across her trapezius muscles. In other words, the muscles right here that connect to our shoulder. So she has it set there, it's proper placement. She's also making sure that her elbows are chicken wing back. Notice that they're, right there, because that drives us forward, and we have a greater propensity to go forward with the weight and hurt our back or worse. So now she has her core tight. The big thing is anytime we're doing any exercise in the gym, we make sure that our core is tight and keeping it nice and flexed. In other words, flex your abdominals. She's going to take a breath in, and when she takes that breath in, breathe in through your nose and mouth, and then she's going to hold it for a second, and then she's going to go ahead and slowly descend into the squat position. Pause. Notice that this is a true parallel right here. Now, if you have knee injuries or hip injuries, this may not be best for you. If you get up onto your toes and you can't keep your weight back on your heels, she has her weight back on her heels to the center of her foot, heel to center of her foot. That's where we want the pressure. Now, as she's going to extend up, exhale, perfect. The other big thing when she goes to squat, Sarah, I'm gonna have you do another squat. And notice that her back is in neutral position. In other words, it's not bending in the thoracic region or the lumbar region. And then when she's keeping her knees pushed out. She's trying to spread the floor. She goes down into that squat. Sarah, go ahead and come back up. And notice that her butt is not coming up before her shoulders. Everything, her hips and her back or shoulder area, we're moving at the same pace. Go ahead and wrap it. All right, now we're gonna demonstrate a standing strict press. It's great to do shoulder press standing, where you're actually having to use your core muscles and brace when you're doing that overhead extension. So Sarah's gonna demonstrate a strict press. Again, when she goes up to grab the bar, she's not having to get on her tiptoes to get it off the rack. So she's gonna go ahead and get underneath it. Notice that she also has her elbows pushed forward. If you have limited mobility, in other words, your back muscles and your lats are real tight, you might not be able to get your elbows up like that, and you have to grab wider to start your press, which is totally okay. And now Sarah's gonna take another step back just to clear the rack, make sure that she's a safe distance from it, not gonna be injured. And then when she goes to do the press, she's gonna brace her core again, keeping her core nice and tight. Her knees are also not completely locked out. We never wanna be completely locked out with our knees. We wanna have a slight crack in them, if you would, or a slight give. She's gonna go ahead and start the press, and start the press. As she clears her face, she then extends back and up over the head. This makes sure that we're hitting not just the front of your shoulders or the medial part of your shoulders or your deltoids right here, your medial deltoids or your front deltoids, your anterior deltoids, but she's also getting a little bit of posterior stabilization. She's also engaging her upper traps, lower traps, and rhomboids by doing so. Please go ahead and provide us with a few more reps. Again, watch, she clears the head, there you go, and then she pushes back, engaging the shoulder muscles completely there.
Perfect.
All right, so now we're gonna review the bench press. You'll notice that we have our safety racks on. Matt is not completely spread out where he's making his shoulders vulnerable for injury. He has his hands positioned, so he's about 4 to 6 inches wider than his chest with his hand placement. And notice that there's enough, the bar's set in a position to where there's enough bend in his elbows to where he's going to rack it and he's not worried about getting clipping the front ends of these racks right here. So he's gonna go ahead and lift up, perfect. And he's gonna keep his shoulder blades squeezed back, so pitch back. He's actually gonna be using his chest predominantly, but his lats and posterior deltoids are gonna be stabilizing to a large extent. So he's gonna go ahead and go down and descend. Notice that his elbows are at a 45-degree angle, or his arms are 45 again. So not out here, his elbows are down in here. Perfect, he's going to do a press up. Perfect. So the rack is, again, if you're unsure, if you're just getting back to doing bench press or lifting weights in general, the rack's a great way to make sure that you do not pin yourself if you don't have a spotter. Ideally, if you're in the gym, try to have another member of your crew with you if you're going to be doing bench press. If you're choosing to do it without the racks, to get a wider range of motion, we're going all the way down to the chest and back up. One more. Perfect. Next, we're going to talk about the deadlift. So the deadlift is one of the most functional movements, and we're constantly picking things up from the floor, ground level, and moving forward with it. So it's important to strengthen the posterior chain. In other words, your hamstrings, your glutes, and your rectors, low back. This is a great exercise to strengthen really the whole back and your core. Also, notice that we don't have clips on here. The reason, clips are for if you're using that 70-75% of your max effort weight, that's 7 out of 10 effort. If we're not doing 7 out of 10 effort or 70 to 75% of your max weight, then we want to use your stabilizer muscles. We want to make sure that you're working on muscular imbalances or not developing more muscular imbalance. And so that's a big thing. If you're lifting too much weight and you can't control a plate from sliding off, we need to stop, contact one of your HFIs, see if we can get some corrective exercise programming to iron out some of those imbalances. So now we're going to go ahead and have Sarah approach the bar. Big thing with the deadlift, and let's make sure they keep her back safe and everything else. She's going to notice that when she steps up, the bar is directly over her laces. There's only about 1 inch to 2 inches of daylight between her shins and the barbell. This is very important. The other big thing with her foot position and the hip width, her feet are about hip width or just a little bit wider than hip width, and that's really important. When she goes to approach the bar, she's going to do her best to keep her shoulders back, so tall chest, head up, and when she goes to bend down, she's not bending her head down to look at the floor. She's just bending from the hip. So really, this is where we're hinging from the hip, going down. She's going to crack her knees. She's going to approach the bar. Sarah, go ahead and approach the bar. Now, when she goes to grab it, notice that her hands are just outside of her shins with her hand placement. The other big thing is that she is in that squat position. So we're not doing a straight leg deadlift. So and her shins are touching the barbell. Also, her back is flat in that neutral position. She's bracing her lats. That's the other big thing. When we're grabbing this, and you're doing that double overhand grip that she has going on right there, she is, in other words, flexing her back muscles, trying to block her shoulder blades in place. And then she's going to go ahead and make that first pull. Boom. There we go. And then nice and slow on the way back down. Notice the barbell is touching her legs the whole time. You really do want it to almost skin the top of your shins. Obviously, we don't want you scraping off your skin, but at the same token, you want to keep as close to your body as possible, and that way you're not straining the low back. And she is loading, and when she goes back up, she's starting with the glutes, firing with those hamstrings, finishing with the quads, getting that full extension, nice tall chest, keeping the shoulder blades pulled back, nice and tight. Great form. Do a couple more reps. Notice the tempo of the movement as well. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, and then back up. 1 1,000, 2 1,000. So that 2 seconds up and 2 seconds down is great for maintaining strength. It's great if you are even working on hypertrophy training. In other words, you're trying to build a little bit of muscle. Again, we're not trying to lift so much weight. You could just do more time under tension. All right, now we want to talk about the front squat. So front squat, like the back squat, works core, does work a little bit your glutes, your hamstrings, but it's predominantly a quad quadricep-based exercise, in other words, the top of your thighs. So Sarah's gonna come over, she's gonna do a front rack squat, front squat. So she's gonna grab pretty close there, and then now notice that she has her elbows completely underneath, and notice that from her elbow to her shoulder is parallel to the floor. And she's gonna walk back. That's to make sure she doesn't drift forward and lose the weight going forward. All right, now she has that front rack position right here, and she's keeping her core nice and tight. She's keeping her head up, and she's now gonna go ahead and descend into the squat position. Pause, and then notice again, her chest is upright, back, and she has her knees going out, spreading the floor with her feet is what you're trying to do essentially, and keeping the knees tracking nice and wide, where the knee goes over the front big toe. Go ahead and come up. Perfect, go ahead and give us 5 more. Good, and then we're gonna go a little bit more slow in the tempo. There it is, perfect. Nice and controlled. She's keeping her elbows up. Those forearms, basically her upper arms parallel to the floor. Doing a great job of that. And also, again, notice that her hips are not coming up first and then her shoulders. Everything's coming up at the same time. All right. All right, now we're gonna do a front squat. As opposed to having a traditional rack right here. Let's say that your lats are too tight, or you have some shoulder injuries, or even like a wrist injury, and you can't hold the bar in the front rack position when it comes to front squat. I have Matt here, and he has his arms crossed. This may be better for you. If you cannot get into that proper position where your elbows to your shoulder, that upper arm, is parallel to the floor, this is the next best move for you for front squat. That being said, this is a little bit more awkward to balance, so where traditionally we would rather you use your stabilizer muscles to make sure you keep the plates on from drifting off left to right. With this, if you're doing a cross arm, because your hands are not truly available to secure the bar, go ahead and use clips all the time, no matter what weight you're using, whether it be 50 to 75% of your max effort. Now we're gonna do a bent over row with a barbell, so barbell bent over row. And so Matt's gonna approach the bar. So with the barbell bent over row, hands are gonna be about shoulder width apart or a little wider. So notice he's got it right on this knurling. Knurling is this little grid on the bar. He has about 1 inch outside of this knurling where it starts on both hands. Matt also is in a great position here with his, almost in that starting like with that deadlift position almost. So when he goes, he's gonna extend his hips up, his back is flat. There you go. So he's getting upright in a position to get ready to go into the deadlift, into the bent over row. So right now, there we go, flat back. He's gonna drive his elbows back at a 45-degree angle. In other words, not a 90, 45. So that way he's not just using his shoulder muscles and his upper trapezius muscles, he's using his rhomboid, the middle back muscles. And he's not pulling his head forward, he's keeping his head back. He's just giving this little demo there. There we go. And then great position, not completely having to be chest parallel to the floor. That's great. Give us a couple more. And he's going right to the chest. And then that's very important to get that full range of motion when we're doing that exercise.